Hello folks, I am The Bitter Klinger, and today I'm going to tell you a little story. And after I tell you that story, I'm going to talk about the importance of trademarks and the Pathfinder Online video game. So let's get to the story first. Pathfinder is a licensed brand and tabletop role-playing system owned by Paizo Publishing. Paizo used to publish both Dragon and Dungeon magazines for Wizards of the Coast. Wizards of the Coast is the publisher for the Dungeons & Dragons franchise. D&D has released 5 major editions of its rule set over the years, but I'm going to focus on the 3rd edition for this story. It was released in the year 2000 and represented a major overhaul of the D&D game mechanics. Along with the 3rd edition rulebooks, Wizards of the Coast also published a complete set of game mechanics in the form of a system reference document. The rule systems defined in the SRD were free to use in whole or in part by third-party publishers under the Open Gaming license. Stay with me, folks, I am going somewhere with this. However, the Open Gaming license did not require third-party derivative works to be compatible with the Dungeons & Dragons rule system. Now, the brand manager for Dungeons & Dragons at the time thought a proliferation of RPG games not related to the D&D product would hurt the tabletop RPG industry as a whole. So he created something called the D20 system. It was a new license agreement with a clearly recognizable trademark, and it canonized the rules from the Dungeons & Dragons Player's Handbook. This meant any third-party product published under the D20 license and bearing the D20 logo must be compatible with the rules in the D&D Player's Handbook. The genius of the D20 system was it allowed third-party publishers to extend their own content to the Dungeons & Dragons player base while ensuring a consistent character experience for D&D players. Everybody wins. And everybody wins because the brand manager for Dungeons & Dragons understood the importance of consumer expectations. He understood the importance of trademarks and brand recognition. That brand manager at Wizards of the Coast, his name was Ryan Dancey. Alright, I told you I was going somewhere with this. Make yourselves comfortable, folks. This one's a real page-turner. In 2003, the Dungeons & Dragons rule set was iterated to version 3.5, but not without some controversy. Many third-party publishers who were early adopters of the D20 license felt Wizards of the Coast didn't give them enough advance warning before releasing the new D&D rule set. As a consequence, a significant number of those publishers were unable to update their products to the latest version in a timely manner, and they subsequently lost their rights to publish the products under the D20 license and bearing the D20 logo. Just so there's no confusion, none of this had anything to do with Ryan Dancey. He wasn't even working at Wizards of the Coast when all this went down. I bring it up because I was a casual observer of these problems. This is simply a cautionary reminder that mismanaging expectations can alienate customers and business partners alike. Fast forward to 2007. Wizards of the Coast declines to renew the contract with Paizo Publishing for both Dragon and Dungeon magazine. So Paizo decides to start publishing supplemental D&D content targeting the 3.5 rule set, but not under the D20 license. And just as well, because later that year, Wizards of the Coast announced the upcoming 4th edition rules for D&D, along with a more restrictive game system license for third-party content creators. Now, if Paizo wanted to continue creating supplemental D&D material, they would have to target the 4th edition rules under the terms of the game system license. That would also mean their existing products targeting the 3.5 rule set would be outdated, and those products weren't even a year old yet. Paizo opted for none of the above, and instead decided to release their own gaming system targeting an extended version of the 3.5 rule set under the Open Gaming license. That product was called the Pathfinder role-playing game, and it was released in August 2009. Well, the Pathfinder RPG was hugely popular, even to the point of outselling Dungeons & Dragons at times. An intriguing game world and robust product line has helped Pathfinder remain the second most popular RPG system in the tabletop RPG market, at least in terms of product sales. Now that they had established a popular and respected brand, it was time for Paizo to branch out with other product offerings, such as trading card games and even online video games. I was so happy when I heard the news that Paizo had obtained funding through Kickstarter for a project named Pathfinder Online. They also formed their own game studio named Goblin Works to develop the game. I immediately jumped on MMORPG.com to watch an interview with the CEO of Goblin Works. The name of the CEO was Ryan Dancey. I viewed that as a good omen. Here we have a man who understands both tabletop role-playing games and the importance of brand management. This is a good start as far as I was concerned. And then I actually watched the video. Oh, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Pathfinder Online was going to be yet another free-for-all PvP gankfest with lootable corpses. That wasn't even the worst news I heard in that interview. Pathfinder Online wasn't even going to adapt the rule set from the Pathfinder RPG. I was stunned. I mean, I know Ryan Dancey worked at CCP, the developer and publisher for EVE Online, but I couldn't imagine game mechanics further removed from the Pathfinder brand than what was being planned for Pathfinder Online. Again, so there's no confusion, this is not a dogpile on Ryan Dancey video. Lisa Stevens was right there with him through all of this. In case you don't recognize that name, Lisa Stevens is the CEO of Paizo Publishing. She was also the Chief Operating Officer of Goblin Works while all this was going down. And just for the sake of trivia, Lisa Stevens worked with Ryan Dancey back at Wizards of the Coast. Ladies and gentlemen, this video is not about blame or recriminations. Lisa Stevens wanted a Pathfinder video game. Her friend and former co-worker Ryan Dancey had worked for a successful video game developer. It makes sense. Unfortunately, I think Paizo Publishing, and Pathfinder in particular, would have benefited more from his experience and accomplishments as the brand manager for Dungeons & Dragons. But sometimes, even the most qualified and well-intentioned professionals can get bogged down in what they're doing and lose sight of why they're doing it. So, we have to ask ourselves some questions. Why is the Pathfinder RPG so popular with tabletop gamers? Is it the game world, or is it the game system, the rules and mechanics that make up the game? I think it's the latter. People who are familiar with tabletop role-playing games recognize the Pathfinder logo, and they associate it with the 3.5 rule set and group-based co-op gameplay. So why would Paizo want to create an online video game in the first place? Is it because they want to be just one more game developer in an already crowded market trying to make the next great open-world PvP game? Or do they want to extend their brand and the popular game mechanics associated with it to a wider audience? Again, I would assume it would be the latter. Okay, great. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. I think that's quite enough Monday morning quarterbacking for now. So where do we go from here? If it were up to me, I wouldn't change a thing about Pathfinder Online. Except the name. Well, I would also strip any Pathfinder-related IP out of the game and replace it with generic content, even placeholders for now. Next, let's look at some names associated with the most memorable and popular PvP experiences in online RPGs. The Asheron's Call Darktide server, Dark Age of Camelot, Age of Conan Unchained, Camelot Unchained, Darkfall, and Crowfall, and that is a remarkable list of very similar sounding names. So let's try branding by association and name our PvP game something like Shadowtide or Darkbane. You see what I did there? I snuck a little Shadowbane in there for you. Alright, finally, I would sell off the whole thing. Yep, just sell it all. Look, I realize Paizo is currently in contract negotiations with a new development studio for Pathfinder Online, but the game just doesn't fit well with their product line. I mean, they can be in the open world free-for-all PvP game business if they want, but I think the genre is a little off the edge of the map for them. Alright, yes, that would mean starting over on whatever would become the new Pathfinder Online. Paizo has a contract with Obsidian Entertainment to create video games based on the Pathfinder IP. In fact, they're currently working on the Pathfinder adventure card game for mobile devices. A quick message to the folks at Paizo: when you have a PC version of that game, just let me know where to enter my credit card. Okay, back to the video. So Obsidian Entertainment is working on that, but I don't believe the contract is limited to the Pathfinder card game. I believe they can make other games for the Pathfinder IP. Now, you may be familiar with some of Obsidian's previous RPGs like Pillars of Eternity or Neverwinter Nights 2, but that doesn't mean a Pathfinder RPG has to be like one of those games. I'm really enjoying another game by Obsidian that you may not know about. It's called Armored Warfare. Okay, hold on. Remain calm. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Bitterklinger, you just went through 4 pages of narration about the importance of branding, and now you want to talk about a PvP tank game? No, I have not lost my mind. And you should know that Obsidian has developed some very satisfying PvE missions for Armored Warfare, and I think it's a system that could be adopted to be a very compelling Pathfinder-based multiplayer online RPG. Now, just for gits and shiggles, I'll be going over the specifics and details on that idea, but not in this video. That's a subject worthy of its own video, which should be coming out next month. Whatever form the next Pathfinder video game takes, I would hope it's an online game, and that it supports multiplayer gameplay, though not necessarily massively multiplayer. I would also hope it uses the game mechanics that I've come to know and love from the Pathfinder RPG, and that it is consistent with the quality that I've come to expect from products bearing the Pathfinder trademark. The Pathfinder RPG may be number 2 in terms of sales, but there is a case to be made that it is actually the most popular tabletop RPG on the market right now. The game currently known as Pathfinder Online is utterly unworthy of bearing the trademark of one of the market leaders, if not the market leader. I don't want to reach a point where gamers start associating the Pathfinder logo with bad video games. Franchises don't often get second chances in the online gaming industry. So I'm happy to bide my time and patiently await the release of the first great video game based on the Pathfinder RPG. And until then, this is Bitterklinger, signing out.